I want to say hello to everybody out there. Hope everybody's doing well. It's your boy Maurice Soul Fighter Taylor in the house. Oh man, another night of Poetic Recovery. We have Corinne with us tonight, who has been part of every big political campaign that I know of that hit Massachusetts, whether it was Governor Deval Patrick, what's his name there? The other guy that we was talking about him earlier. I said his name.
Don Berwick.
Don Berwick, yes.
Good.
And you also Obama.
Yeah, Obama.
Also, helped manage the Obama campaign.
Yeah.
In Western Massachusetts.
Yeah.
And that was a pretty good experience.
Yeah. Great.
So we're gonna interview Corinne at 8:30.
Okay.
We're hoping that we get some more people on early tonight. But I know what you guys like to hear me do. You guys like to hear me do the weather. So just give me one moment. We'll get that going. We are live on the radio. If you want to hear us on the radio, you can go to www.poeticrecovery.net and click on radio station. And you'll be able to hear us live on the radio. So, for your weather tonight, 40 degrees. 22% chance of rain, clear skies, low 39 degrees Fahrenheit, winds west southwest at 10 to 15 miles per hour. Humidity is 52%, UV index 010, moon set. Well, moon rise was 3:30 p.m., moon set is 4:26 a.m. Saturday, high 70 degrees, finally. Low 45 degrees, mostly sunny. 2% chance of rain, wind 13 miles per hour. And Sunday, high 57 degrees, is dipping back down a bit. Lowest 38 degrees, rain. So definitely gonna have to get your raincoats. 83% chance of rain, northeast, 9 miles per hour. If you're driving on Sunday, please drive safe. Road's gonna be wet. Slip and slide. Slip and slide. All right. Hello, Dominica. How you doing tonight? No, how you doing?
I'm all right. How are you, everybody?
I'm doing good. I'm doing good. So I just want to announce a change. I put on the there's a helper that I put on for WebEx, and I think what happens is that it gives people closed captions. So for people who can't hear, they'll be able to read what's happening, what's going on. So yeah, welcome. We have Corinne tonight, who has done a lot of political work in the area. And I'm going to bombard her with some questions she don't know yet. And we're going to have some fun. But I'm going to start off as I normally do. Hey, Dominica, how was your week?
It was all right. As you already know, just nursing the new little bird that I have that hatched. So, and getting the rest of my stuff for my branding. So it's been great. I hope it's been going well for you and everybody else.
That's good. That's good. Good to hear. Mama Birdie. Nanon, how you doing, Nanon?
Just tired.
How was your week?
Oh, tiring.
All right. I hope you get the rest that you need. And oh, is that your back screen? Is that your background? No.
That me?
Yeah, is that a back?
What are you saying? I don't know what you're saying.
Oh, I see you barely coming in.
It's probably like, oh, okay. Oh, I don't know what
Not-
that is.
Yo, you look like a ghost.
I know. I see it like that. I don't know what's up with that.
You gotta hold yourself in a certain position.
No,
in
but it
order
does.
for us to
It's a
see
ghost.
clear.
I don't know.
Yeah.
Let me
Oh,
see.
how was your week, Corinne?
How was my week? It was more or less okay. It's pretty okay.
That's good.
Yeah, getting there.
I'm glad you're here with us tonight.
Thanks.
And one of the things I like to do is I'm with Hip Hop Congress. I got yelled at last week because one of the elders, Jerry, said, "Hey man, you don't shout out Hip Hop Congress enough." And I think I do because I play music from artists from Hip Hop Congress all the time. You know, here's one of my favorites, D. LaBrie. And you're gonna have to excuse me because my hand is not working the way it should.
This song is dedicated to all the folks in the struggle. My grandmother, Bell Dixon, my auntie Samantha. You know what I'm saying? Everybody that's doing it and trying to make it. You know what I'm saying? Let's do this. Yo, yo. Yo, this ain't coming from nobody special. Put these suckers in put my hands in have a super spoon. Put these suckers in the room. Put my hands in have a super spoon. On the understand simple thought, simple food. Or a rhythm. Without a tool, live life without rules, regulations, and boundaries. Top of the game now, support my family, checking jobs for them, and expecting temptation. Dealing bread, quit wrecking the nation. That's a mixed down. Pressure was pressure on the rock, I'ma show you a lot. Just wanna see you. So what you gonna do then? So what you gonna do then? Kid, so what you gonna do? Stand in the fan, the prince and queen got plans to win. I can't pretend I don't feel the pain. I feel the sunshine, kill the rain. Cause this dark style follows me. With a hood, just swallow me. We all grow up in poverty. All the ask Grandma LaBrie on Holly Street. Get over the hump like black top leaves. So I'm gonna just sit back, get back to the sea, back to the street, get back to the beat. I'm sure it's the key. Get home to the D, get down street. Just wanna see you.
Just get into it. You don't talk much, you got to say with no need to hate. Just keep the movement. It's just the way we keep moving. It's changing, and that's the movement. You be coming out, give me to that. We can keep moving. Look, you tackling for that option.
Keep your hands down because we was never reaching the sky. Right now, we need to figure out a place for
was born in the top, never really cognizant. People say that I look mean, I guess you gotta be. Born in the hood, raised in the slums where people pray for miracles, but nothing ever comes. Mama kept moving.
Come on, y'all. How y'all doing out there?
Daddy was around, but
Hip Hop Congress,
supposed to be watching us, but he just split. Left us all
Poetic Recovery.
out to ourselves, no chaperone. Supposed to be a daddy, had to take care of my brother, and we never would have made it if it wasn't for my mother. She put food on the bottom shelf so I could reach, and I made sure my little
To all the mothers out there,
life wasn't easy. I was told that we were blessed, and the less than perfect circumstance, she always did it best. Played Mario, just a young brother coming up in the patio. Never music, I spent a slate and I didn't know had to lay down on the carpet case. A bullet hit the window. Sounds like a dream, it was more like an incubus. This ain't a movie though. Tell me what you think of this. Couldn't wear blue, never wore red, especially not a hat. Catch a bullet in the head. Kept my head down when I walked to class. Then I left a little early and we got fast. Locked up the bag. On the wheel, fame pushes in the cars on the corner with the crack cocaine. Pick up the sticks, my life was free. Who was the prince? Who my escape? Kept improving. I'm on the law, said to keep on moving. Keep on moving. At the end of it all, I really just like to thank your mother. No matter how hard it got, you just kept moving. Kept your head up, kept smiling, and stayed strong for me and my brother. I love you. Everybody put your ones up, put your ones up.
10 bless.
For one love, everybody
One love, one's up.
put your ones up, put your ones up for one love. The challenge is to keep the balance.
Come on, y'all. Put your ones up for one love. Come on.
Sitting in silence around the world, the people are watching while they watching y'all. The challenge is to keep the balance, stay sane in this world.
Come on, you know. Put those ones up.
Sitting in silence around the world,
Yeah.
trying to tightrope like a balancing act. Moving forward, never looking back. Subtract negative, stay positive, black. Only God can judge you and that's move it like this and move it like that. The movement brings life to places that lack the surrounds you busting the jacks. Find divinity in you, love is where it's at, my man. Gotta do what you can. Get it for his family and live. 5 men, freedom eyes is here. 5 men. Prove to was the bigger man, make a stand. But don't forget to make a plan. But don't forget to make it clean. The turntable strike you by hand. Chuck juices, beats producers understand that. The challenge is to keep the balance, stay sane in this world, expressing my talents. Returns to source, sitting in the silence, the rattling world. More to people invited, they brought.
Yeah. Yes. 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 Man, I love playing good music. I love playing uplifting music. So before we get into it, you guys know that Derek Chauvin was found guilty as charged on all counts. But I like to tell people just to remember that he is not the police, the police culture. There's so much more work to continue to do. I feel like he's like a sacrificial lamb. But here's the thing: when you got people in place, like the district attorney, when you have people in place who are willing to seek justice, right, it can work. You know, for so long, this country puts people in place that allows people to work together and circumvent the system so that abuse to Black mental illness, women can continue going on without punishment, and so that's some change that, you know, that I want to celebrate. But we still have a whole lot of work to go. And, the young lady that was killed in, was it Columbus, Ohio, the 15-year-old there, who they said was lunging with the knife. She was lunging with the knife, but what they're not telling you is that she's the one that called the police. And she was being jumped by two other girls. The problem is, like, in foster care, the system fails you all around: the police, the healthcare, the DSS, education, so, and it's interesting that, when the police show up with the active shooters and they're white, they get arrested and get taken to jail. But before that, they get to go to Burger King or McDonald's. They get to get water. If a cop goes into like a group of white people fighting each other, beating the hell out of each other, you know what I'm saying? The police try to end it with this as with no casualties, So I think personally, what I think is that police rely on their guns way too much. I think that they knew where they was going into. They should have had body shields. In other countries, they have body shields, so when people have knives, the police can bring out the body shields and wear the people out until they, get tired. You know what I'm saying? And so, I think that in terms of policing, I think that people need to, we need to value people's lives more. So with that being said, what do you guys think about the verdict in the George Floyd trial? No.
Long overdue, in one of many cases that need to have the murderer found guilty. They are very quick to accuse, and not only accuse but convict people who are of color, who may not even actually have murdered somebody. They may have just injured them. They are quick to do those cases, but when it comes to the officers, it's protect blue. It's good old boys club. It's make sure that we take care of the team. Like, this is in my opinion, one of many cases that needs to have found convictions.
I will say this though: non-white cops are convicted far more than white cops.
That is very, very true. And then it's funny that you say this. So, hi everybody, my name is Anita T. I just jumped in here and started talking, but my name is Anita. I am from Cleveland, Ohio, but I'm currently living in Austin, Texas. And back to the topic, I just wanted to introduce myself. Yes, minorities are convicted at a higher rate. But that's because they're easier to convict because they're already seen as the enemy.
Yeah. Well, and the systematic racism as well, so.
It's funny that you're on this topic. I posted earlier on Instagram because it was somebody put up a photo of a slave catcher's badge. And what people don't know about the slave catchers is that they would deputize other slaves to catch slaves. So you have these slaves that are deputized by a slave catcher to go and get these other slaves just to come back and be treated just as a slave. Like, isn't that wild? How,
Well,
think about it.
and it hasn't changed much either. When you look at the way policing works, when you look at the way politics works, a little bit has changed, but you get somebody get in office and they won't do a lot for our communities, and it's like, okay, well, so what are you doing? And so no, I hear you, and you're definitely right. You know, but see, we, you know, there's that part of our community where we're not holding each other accountable. You know what I'm saying? Where it's easier to say, oh, white people, but not look at what's going on in our own community. And we have to look at both sides. You know, and I know it's not a popular opinion, but you know, it's true. You know what I'm saying? We definitely have to look at, because not what they say, not all skin folks are kinfolk. You
Right.
know,
But it's also just the lack of looking in the mirror. Like people don't want to because it is so much easier to hate Goliath. Nobody wants to take a look at what David did wrong before that.
Hmm.
no, I definitely agree. You know, I definitely agree. Nita, do you write poetry?
Yes, I do.
Ooh, 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 and caller, hold up. Who's this caller online? I'm willing to bet it's Jerry. Caller 4? Hello,
Yeah,
caller 4.
I don't know what number caller I am, but this is Jerry.
Usually you're 2. Tonight you're 4. I don't know what's going. Well, you called in quite a few times. So each time you
Yeah,
call
actually,
back,
I called in once, and then my connection got. Yeah, I'm working with a new phone, so I'm still kind of working out the
Oh wait,
the ins and outs of it.
does this phone happen to have video on it?
It does.
So where you at?
But like I said, I just got this phone like maybe an hour or so ago, and so I'm still working it out. Yeah, you know, I'm getting acquainted with my device.
All right. Well,
So, as far as the verdict, yeah. So I guess from my point of view, it's not a cause for celebration. I agree with what you said that it's a milestone. You know, I think it's huge that folks had the courage to deliver this verdict, because as we know, all things being equal, it could have very easily, you know, he could have very easily walked. So yeah, I applaud everyone from the jurors to the judge to the prosecutors, and yeah, so I think that it was huge in that regard. I guess I say it's not cause for celebration because I believe you used the word, I don't know, maybe you didn't, but that he was like a sacrificial kind of person. I mean, the system is always willing to throw people under the bus, you know, if it serves their purpose, you know, and they don't really care what you look like, you know. But basically, I think that the systemic piece of the racism that we're dealing with is not the cop on the street. It's not the actions of any one particular cop or any bunch of cops. The systemic piece of what we're dealing with is the academy. It's how these people are trained. It's how police officers are trained, what they're trained to do. And if you go back to most verdicts where, you know, a cop was on trial and they get acquitted, you almost will always hear, oh yeah, he was doing what he was, you know, he was just doing what he was trained to do, you know. So I mean, I think that the systemic piece of it is rooted in the academy, you know, and I applaud that verdict.
I agree and I disagree with you, bro. And here's why. Because once you get to your precinct, right? The precinct have their own culture, right? So, like for instance, last night, this is just a microscopic view, right? So I was driving, and so I you know, in front of the Holyoke Library, there's this cop car who's parked parallel, and there's another cop car next to him in the middle of the street, so where cars have to go around them, right? So I got out and I asked him, I said, if I was parked like this, right, would I be, would it be an infraction? And they just looked at me. I was like, I'm just asking because, I mean, like, you're parked in the same way that if I was parked, would it not be an infraction? He goes, I guess it would be. It could be. So I'm like, and as you guys are sitting here and your cars are running, all this gas is being used up. It has to pay for our taxes. Why you guys can't get out and talk? And it wasn't unusually cold out last night. They could have got out and talked. So and I'm saying that to say that, like, that some of these things are taught like culturally once people get to the precinct, right? And like the lady who shot that 20-year-old kid, right? She when someone shot somebody else years ago, she taught them how to doctor their work, right? How to get out of it, right? So that's something that's taught in-house, right? You know what I mean? So I think the academy cannot teach them what they need to learn once they get to their precinct. Some of that stuff is taught inside. Police chiefs, commissioners, mayors, all these people that go along with covering up police indiscretions and misbehavior. That stuff that's learned once you get on the job. So now I know some people, want to argue, well, not all cops are bad. And sometimes I want to be like, well, I don't know, man. And then sometimes I want to be like, okay, I can see that. But here's my problem. This is what I say, right? If you're silent and you see what's happening, you're part of the problem, right? Very few cops actually speak up. And the cops that do speak up are the good cops. For instance, did you see the video of this cop that was beating on this woman and this other cop stopped him? You know what I'm saying? The cop that stopped him beating on that woman is a good cop. That's a good cop. You know what I'm saying? That's what good cops do. They protect everybody from everybody, whether it's a citizen or a police officer. You know what I'm saying? That's what a good cop does.
Can I make a comment on that?
Yes, sir.
I think that that officer, he may well have been a good cop, but we don't know his motives. We don't know if he had body cameras on, or
yeah,
if,
or
if he knew that there was closed circuit TVs elsewhere capturing that, and he was a party to that. So I'm not saying that what he did comes into question. All I'm saying is that it does not come down to the actions of an individual. It comes down to what the system how the system is set up. And I just want to say one quick thing. So back to the academy thing I was talking about, right? I'm not talking about the morals that are taught at the academy, because you can't teach people that, in any profession, in any field. I'm talking about the techniques that are taught in the academy.
Oh, okay.
Do you think this guy Derek Chauvin, where did he learn that technique? Do you think he learned that from the boys in the precinct, or that was a technique that's taught to officers?
I actually don't think he learned that in the academy. Here's why. Is because, and you know what? Maybe he did learn in the academy way back when, but it's been outlawed for quite some time. You know what I'm saying? And here's the thing, right? Like, so that culture of protecting each other gives some people like him the thought they're like, yo, I'm going to do what I want. They're going to protect me. The only reason why he wasn't protected is because the protest for George Floyd went worldwide. And people were ready. People were ready nationwide, right? And so I think, and here's the part where I say the system worked this time, is because, and here's what people don't realize. is that as individuals, we are part of the system. And when we work together, then the other part of the system begins to get activated. And once once this part of the system that represents us is activated, then we can oppose the opposing power that seeks to oppress us. And so I believe that took place, right? Because think about it. And Corinne, you're older than me, right? I'm pretty sure you recognize some things that happened in this case that never happened before, right? They got witnesses to testify that certain things were illegal, and these were like high upper witnesses that you've never historically seen come testify against police officers. And that is because people have continued to fight and struggle. And so even if it's whether or not they said, okay, man, like, yo, bring the best people in to lay this out for the jury so we can get a conviction, because we can't have this keep going, because there's going to be a civil war if it does, right? Even if that happened, still, it was the will of the people that forced that to happen. And so we have to understand that. Corinne, I can see you making faces and stuff like that, so I wanted to know if you wanted to chime in. You're on mute.
Sorry. I'm agreeing with you. I just thank goodness that young woman had her camera and the presence of mind to film the whole thing. I mean, she's a hero, don't you think?
I completely second that, Corinne. Hi, nice to meet you. Yeah, I'm of the same mind, because everything that you've talked about so far, I'm like, that's that. And Jerry, caller number 4. But the video from her name, I think her name was Daniela. If it was not for her and her angle, we would have nothing.
Yeah.
Right.
There would be absolutely nothing to even combat these officers' stories. Because not only did he was the one who put the knee on his neck, but there were 3 other officers there who were holding down this man's entire body weight. And they're quick to say, oh, and this happened to my younger brother in Baltimore, actually, about 3 years ago. My little brother's only 6 feet tall. And 7 officers pulled up on him. Like, he had a loud muffler. He was coming back from Baltimore, coming home to Cleveland. And they said, oh, he's a lot larger than we are. When you look at the video, all of the officers are the same height, if not taller than him. They said, oh, he's got more muscle mass than we do. They all had the same muscle mass, if not more. Now, also include the fact that they have on weighted vests, they have on weapons, they have on knee pads and steel toe shoes. So they're heavier. Automatically, because of this 35 to 50 pounds worth of equipment they have on their body, automatically they are heavier than you as an individual. Like, if you go up to an officer, automatically they are heavier than you are. Unless you're walking up to a 230-pound man and you are a 5'5" officer, it's physically impossible. So they're casing this, saying that, oh, he was the size of his person was threatening. And translate that to every other case. So they were using their force of their bodies to weigh him down, even though the man had to be maybe 215 pounds, 6 foot, maybe 6'2". That's a hard maybe. This was all because he was Black. And they chose to use excessive force because they've seen it. And the other thing is that you have to remember, this is because of social media, all of these things are becoming hyper popularized. So now we have not just one video, you have hundreds of videos popping up. Now they feel empowered because, oh, white lives suddenly matter. Because now we have the Knights of Columbus coming out saying, oh, here we are, we have our flag still, and we don't believe in this. When at the end of the day, it's unjust to treat a human being this way.
Right.
They are not going to do that. They create these small little clubs inside of the club that is already the police department. They create inner clubs inside of that, so that you have greater discrimination even within the police department itself. So that you have, you know, higher ranking officers who are able to not only say, oh, okay, well, I'll outrank you in the office, but also I'll outrank you in our unofficial organizations. So you take all of that and the bullying, I honestly, that's what it was in my opinion, because you have Chauvin's testimony and what he's saying happened versus three officers who are now trying to corroborate the story as to why they also felt need to place themselves on this person. That's just my opinion.
No, I hear you. I just want to let everybody know when you're done talking, place your mics on mute. Because if you're talking or something or making noise, what happens is that the camera goes on you and not the person that's talking. So just reiterate that. That's the general rule that we have.
Question to you, to everyone: is Chauvin the only officer that got convicted?
Well, it was his trial first. The other three awaiting trial.
Yeah, their trial.
So he was the only one on trial then.
No. Well, yeah. Right now, yes.
Okay, so others are going to be brought up as well.
Yep.
Yes, their trials are on the 23rd, all three of them.
And the reason why Derek was tried by himself, I think, wasn't he the ranking officer there?
I believe so.
And he's the one that actually, it was his actions that led, I mean, all of their actions, but it was his knee on George's neck that led to George's death. So he had charges that the other officers might not even face. So I think that's why they charged him alone. And I think that the other lawyers were like, you know, if you go with him, it's going to be bad for you, because if he gets found guilty, you all are found guilty. So I think that's why that they chose to go it alone. That being said, I got a question. How many of y'all got some poetry? That's what I want to know. Dominica, where you at, yo? Oh, she bounced. Ninon, you got some poetry?
Do you still have your interview tonight?
Yeah, bro. It's in 7 minutes. Jerry likes to act like I'm not on point. Jerry likes to act like I don't know what I'm doing on my show. Why is that, Jerry?
No, I'm not. That's not my angle at all. But this is your show, and you have to accept that people are going to have questions of you. You know?
No, I don't.
Yeah,
No.
you can't take things personally, man. You know, because I was just asking because I know in the past, sometimes in the past when you've had an interviewer, when you were doing an interview, maybe it was because of the person's time frame. But yeah, a lot of times the interview happened early on.
Big Bailey. Hey, Sean, Jerry's at it again.
And just like, but let me make an analogy here. Okay, so a minute ago you were talking about how for justice to occur, people need to speak up. And essentially,
I know you was not going to draw. You was not going to draw a parallel with you speaking up here and me talking about people speaking up for justice, are you?
Absolutely am. Absolutely.
Bro, you need
And
to,
the point
know
is,
what?
let me finish. No, let me finish. Let me
You
finish.
need to go learn how to
Let me
turn on
finish
your
my
video. That's what
analogy.
you need to do.
No, let me finish my analogy here. Okay, so again, as you were saying, that for justice really to occur in a broad sense, it involves everybody. It involves more than just, a couple of people. People have to be willing to speak up, just like you were willing to speak up to those two officers that were obstructing the flow of traffic. And so you, as the host of this program, you're subject to be held accountable. You're subject for people to ask you, okay, so what about this? And how is this going?
I agree,
what I'm saying?
Terry.
And you take it personally. You take it personally, and that shouldn't be. It shouldn't be that way.
I agree partly with what you're saying, but the reason why it should be taken that way is because you're coming at me, bro. You coming at me
Well, that's what I'm saying.
personally. Bro, hold
That's
on,
what
wait
I'm
a minute.
saying.
I listen to
Well, that's
you.
what taking it personally means.
Right, I listen to you. Listen to me, sir. Right? There is a time and place for everything. Like when the show is over, hey, brother Maurice, let me call you up. Let me, not doing the show. But anyway, I love you. I'm gonna accept it though. I'm gonna let it go because you're the elder. You know what I'm saying? You got more years on this earth than I do, so I'm gonna give you that.
That doesn't matter,
But
because it's all about the youth, really.
Not only
It's
that, I
about
know
the youth. That's our future.
I know you getting older and forgetful and stuff like that. So I'm gonna let you have that. I love you. I
So,
love you. I'm
so
just
here's the
teasing.
thing. I would not intentionally put you on the spot. I would
I'm
not ask
teasing.
you a question that I knew that I didn't think that you were prepared for. You know what I'm saying? I'm not here to try to blindside you. I mean, I have no reason to do that. You know what I'm saying?
I'm teasing with you,
There's
Jerry.
There's no reason to do that. So I'm not that type of person anyway.
I'm teasing with you, Jerry.
Okay, well, I don't know. I just want to sometimes I'm not sure if you're taking things personally or,
Now look who's taking things. Now look who's taking things personally, Mr. Jerry. Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
All right, we're good.
I like teasing with you. I like teasing with you, and they ain't gonna stop.
Yeah, I know, and I got to kick it back too.
And what I am gonna ask you to do is read a poem before we go into our interview.
Now that I can do.
You wasn't expecting that, was you?
I was not. I was not, man. That was like a curve. I wasn't expecting it, but I'm gonna
you're gonna ride through the occasion.
Yes. And I'm gonna do a short one. This is one of the few poems that I have that I know by heart, that I have memorized. And it's relevant to the conversation that we've been having. And it's called All It Took. It didn't take a lot. It didn't take much. All it took was a few good women and a few good men with a wink and a nod and a tacit grin. It didn't take a lot. All it took was a few. And as more followed suit, as if deaf, blind, and mute, as if they never knew. And that's what I got for you for right now.
Hey Jay, were you in the military?
I wasn't. I'm a military brat. My father was a career military person.
Were you in the Marines?
No, I said I was not in the military.
Oh, what was your dad?
Oh, he was in the Air Force.
Oh, okay. Okay.
Yeah.
Was your mom in the military as well?
No.
Oh, okay. Thank you for that poem, Jerry. I appreciate it.
Oh, you're welcome. Thank you for the opportunity.
You're welcome, sir. Hey, before we go to our interviewer, hey Sean, how you doing, bro?
I'm good. How are you guys doing?
Doing all right.
All right, all right.
We got Jerry here acting up again.
Yeah, Sean, I just want to say that you have inspired me. That you've inspired me, Sean.
How did I do that?
Just in the reading of some of the pieces that you've read, yeah, it kind of has inspired me to, yeah, just to kind of take a broader view, you know what I'm saying? And so, yeah, and that's what it's all about. I mean, that's what this program is all about, if I'm not mistaken, right, Maurice? That, you know, we come together and at the end of it all, we leave kind of inspired from one thing or another. So I was just kicking it to Sean, let you know that, yeah, that what you brought to this program has been an inspiration to me.
I think that's deep, bro. I think you being an older brother can say that to a younger brother. I think that's deep. Thank you. I mean, I know you,
Jerry. I appreciate you.
Thank you.
I would like to move this into our interview. And I think I'm gonna make a little bit of changes here, because normally I'm the one asking questions. So what I'm gonna do is at the end of the interview, I'm gonna open it up for everyone to ask one question each. So I've asked Corinne Wingard to come on and be our interviewee tonight, because I've seen her do so much good work. And I know there's times she asked me to do stuff. I'm like, nah, man, you're with the Democratic Party. Get away from me. You know, just because of the historical mess of the Democratic Party, but not saying that I support the Republican Party. It's just that I wish that we can change the way things are. From a two-party system that existed when there was only 100,000 people in this country, you know, and move away from a two-party system now that we have like 300 million people in the country. But because of her spirit and the person whom she is, and her sincerity, and I'm not gonna lie, that voice of hers, man, like that voice of hers is so sweet. Like she says something, you can't help but just say, okay. You know what I mean? But no, she's a really great person. And so everyone, I want to introduce you to Corinne Wingard. Corinne, would you like to say a little bit about yourself before we begin?
Sure. Thank you so much for inviting me. It really is an honor to be invited and a pleasure. So here I am. About myself, I'm old. I'm 79 years old. This keeps astonishing me, but it's true. And I never was involved in politics in my life until I met Deval Patrick. And fell in total political love. I heard him speak at a house party in the Berkshires, and everything he said totally resonated with what I believed. And I started working in his campaign, and I ended up becoming what was called the regional desk for Western Mass for his campaign. So how did that happen? And it was an amazing experience, and he continues to inspire me to this day. And not everybody loves him. I do. I'm not sure we always have agreed, but I think he's just one of the best human beings I've ever met in my life. So so there I was. Now I who was never interested in politics, was very, very involved in politics. And then I ended up being the Western Mass co-coordinator for the Obama campaign. And then also Elizabeth Warren was at my house on her listening tour. That was pretty exciting. Don Berwick for governor, and just some great candidates. So, but our political system, I don't want to use a bad word on your show. So, it doesn't work. It just doesn't work for everyday people. It just doesn't. And so it's a huge challenge because, how do you make change? How do you change that? So you get people like Ayanna Presley. She is really making change. And Alexandra, I can never get her name right. But so people can get in and make change, but it's very challenging. And this is Washington, but politics really start on the local and state level. So one of the ways we got, I think, in the mess we're in is that the Republicans sort of took over the state legislatures and gerrymandered the districts to get themselves elected. And that's part of the mess we're in Washington. So I think that, we really need to be working at the local and state level. So, and how you get elected? Yeah, I've worked on a lot of campaigns, and I can talk about that if you like, how to get elected, and then what to do when you get elected. Should I just keep talking or wait and take questions? What would you like me to do?
Well, you said a couple of things.
Mhm.
I think one of the reasons why people don't like Deval Patrick
Yeah.
is because he worked for Coca-Cola.
Yeah.
He represented them when, I forget what South American country it was, but
So,
the workers were starting to unionize and they were getting killed because they wanted to unionize.
mm,
And Deval Patrick came in to represent Coca-Cola over that case.
yeah.
And so I think that's one, and I know that's one of the reasons why I was looking at him like sideways,
Yeah.
is because, but as a governor, I think he did a decent job.
Yeah. Well, yeah, he did. He did the best he could do in the system he was working in, because the legislature fought him every step of the way. So many of the things he wanted to do, he wasn't able to do. And also, I think he was politically naive in some ways, and he didn't, I don't know, he just wasn't able to do all of the things he wanted to do. There was a lot he wanted to do, and yeah, he did
What did you specifically like about Deval Patrick that made you want to support his campaign?
it was his values, Maurice. It was like, I remember that time when he was speaking, one of the things that was before marriage equality. Sometimes when I talk about him, I get all emotional, I cry. So just don't pay any attention if I do that. So he was talking about, passing marriage equality in Massachusetts. And somebody asked him a question about, well, if you can't do that, what will you do in your next term? And he said, if I can't do that, I will not run for another term. I mean, he and little things like he changed the Department of Mental Retardation to the Department of Developmental Disabilities, and words do matter. I mean, he did so many things like that throughout government. He really, but the system at our state house is terrible, in case anybody hasn't noticed. There's a lot of efforts now going on about legislative transparency and about legislative reform. Progressive Democrats of Massachusetts, that I'm on their leadership team, has a working group on legislative reform. It's the secrecy, the bills not being able to get passed. It is so dysfunctional, our legislature, and it affects our lives. And which is why we need to keep electing people who are more genuinely progressive, to make change. Yeah. So
let's get very basic, right?
sure.
For those who are thinking, it's impossible to let people to run people for office, so on and so forth. how can someone get someone from their community and make them a household name and viable for being a candidate?
Yeah. Do you mean for local office or state office or any office? Just
Both.
both. Okay. So, y- it takes tremendous commitment and strength and courage and energy to run for office. And it helps a lot to have family and friends supporting the person who's running. So it's really relational organizing. It's all about relationships. There's an organization, Mass Alliance, which is a coalition of unions and progressive organizations. And Jordan Berg Powers is the director, and they do fabulous campaign trainings. They do really, really excellent campaign trainings for candidates and for campaign managers. So I strongly advise anybody who wants to run for office to consider taking one of their courses and learning about things like, there's so many things like, messaging and win numbers and stuff like that. But first you have to be really clear what your message is and why you're running and what you're trying to communicate to people. And I think to listen to people, one of the campaigns I worked on that I really hated, canvassing is going and knocking on people's doors, right? So, which is the most effective way. Well, the most effective way is talking to people already, like your friends, your family, and reaching out and building on that way. But the next way is going door to door and canvassing, knocking on doors and talking to people. So when you knock on people's doors, you really, the best thing is if you can have a conversation with them and find out, if you're running for town office, what are their concerns in the town? What do they want to see changed? And one of the campaigns I really, really hated was it was all about how many doors you knocked on. It wasn't, all they wanted to know was how many doors did you knock on? It's like, okay, how many doors did you, to me, I don't, that's not how I think is the right way to just keep numbers like that for me. So it's about building a team. It's about reaching out. It's about connecting with people. So that's campaigns running for office. So, I don't know how familiar people are with the Fair Share Amendment and with Raise Up Massachusetts. So the Fair Share Amendment is, we're trying to get passed. It's a constitutional amendment. It will be on the ballot in 2022. And what it does is adds 4% on the state tax to the second $1 million that people in the very top brackets make. So your first $1 million is still the same 5%. On your second $1 million, it's an additional 4%, which would come to $40,000 a year. Right, on $2 million, an extra $40,000 a year. And the business community is fighting it tooth and nail. So Raise Up is in the process of rolling out a campaign across the state and working in the regions and really trying to get our message out of what are our stories, why do we support the additional money and the need in our state. So it's I think it's personal, and it's being able to share stories and share ideas. So, and everybody should sign up for the Raise Up campaign. It's like in Massachusetts. It's in Massachusetts.
Well, it makes sense. I was reading something a little while ago, and was it Reagan? Before Reagan, we used to have a high tax rate.
That's right.
And not allowed enough money to go in
Yeah.
and pay for like infrastructure, different programs that we had. And it was Ronald Reagan that lowered the tax rate.
And the well-to-do, absolutely. He did more to hurt this country. I think Heather Cox Richardson is a historian. She teaches at Boston College, and she writes a daily blog, and she has this whole write-up about Reagan and how the things that he did and how far it set our country back, and how we're just now starting to step away from that and focus on the things that we need. And he was also the one who, with his fake welfare queen and his message that, you know, all these people of color want to come and take the money you white people work so hard for. I mean, it was absolutely his message that that was so destructive to this country, and that now we have to like turn around again. Yeah, because Massachusetts has lost $4 billion since, everybody calls it Taxachusetts, right? Since the late 90s and early 2000s, we have lost an annual revenue, $4 billion in annual revenue by cutting our taxes. You know, and all the things you care about, the roads, everything that you want, schools, you can't do them without revenue. It's hard to pass more progressive legislation, but when you do pass it, if you don't fund it, you know, then you're not really getting very far. So, yeah.
Why is it that, and this is more of a psychological thing, why is it that those who want certain services don't want to pay taxes for them?
I was going to say because they're idiots, but that's not really. I think it's, you know, it's human nature. People are stuck in a lot of biases and prejudices and things they consider moral or not moral, that I think interfere with that. They just don't make the connection. I mean, you know, like the people, the Trump supporters in some of the southern states, I think they're like the biggest beneficiaries of some of the things, you know, Biden's trying to do, and they're against him, you know, so it doesn't make any sense. I don't know if that's a answers that.
No, I mean, it does. I'm just trying to think like what hard-hitting questions I can ask you.
I know. And plus I told you before, I'm very opinionated. It is true. It is true.
I mean, and it's kind of hard because
Yeah.
I know as a black person, I look at the Democratic Party and I look at the Republican Party, right? When you say the word progressive, I cringe because, and I know we had this discussion before,
I know.
almost an argument, but Jeff Day, I think his name was,
Uh-huh.
when he first came up to me, and he was like, you know, you support the progressives, and this was before I knew who the progressives were. I was like, well, what are you guys about? Well, we want this, we want that, da, 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 da. And I was like, oh yeah, cool, right? But when I started doing research on the progressives, right, man, and saw the laws that they enacted in the early 1900s, right, and the systematic racism that was put in place, and how it strengthened Jim Crow, right? I was like, there's no way I'm supporting progressives.
Yeah.
Right, and especially when I go in this rant, and they start sounding like Trump's people, you know, because they don't want to be held accountable. And I'm like, well, if I started a new group called the New Neo-Nazis, and I told you it was going to be kind to Jewish people, like, what would you say?
Yeah.
And they're like, oh, well, that's just stupid. I'm like, well, that's my point. Do you not care because I'm black and I'm telling you that it doesn't make sense, or what? You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So, for me, I just couldn't. I just couldn't do it. But
Yeah.
I do like some of the policies that the progressives are actually standing up for and pushing.
So, I think there are as many definitions of progressive as there are progressives. So that's kind of we were saying before, it's all about values. It's about the kind of world you believe in, the kind of world you want to work for, the kind of laws you see needing to be passed now. So it's things like, so many things, funding for schools, funding, the Fair Housing and Civil Rights Conference was, their 15th annual conference was just, I think, a week ago. And there was a lot of great discussions. And one of the things was about funding, putting funds and resources into communities like that are underfunded and under-resourced. That, there was a lot about, it was fair housing and civil rights. So it was a lot about housing and about giving people the option to move, like if they want to, from a suburb, from a city to a suburb, but where there's higher opportunities. But why not make higher opportunities where people are living right now? So it's so, to me, complicated. People are complicated. There's, I think it's in Newton that they're trying to develop more housing and more housing that's more affordable to more people. So a whole bunch of people who had Black Lives Matter signs in their yards were objecting to building more housing that was affordable in Newton. And if you read the book, Richard Rothstein, The Color of Law, I don't know, have you heard of that book? It's an amazing book. It's basically the history of how the government created segregation.
Wait, what book?
It's called The Color of Law. The Color of Law.
Oh, yeah. Okay.
Richard Rothstein, and he has a video. He has like a 15-minute video on YouTube. And it's our government created segregation, and after World War II, Levittown specifically said no Negroes may live in this, our government did this, it's like, so how do you unpack it? How do you make the changes? How do you put people in place who will be, yeah.
Well, there's devil's advocate. I'm gonna do Jerry real quick.
Yeah.
Devil's advocate. There's
Yeah.
some people that say that Black people had more during segregation than we have now. Well, we had more businesses because we built them in our communities. We had more economics rolling through our community than we have now. What would you say to, like, how do we live in a non-segregated place and allow and create it so that Black people are allowed to flourish?
Let me think a second. So, I mean, how do I don't, do you want to live, is it do you want to live in a non-segregated place? If people who would rather not, then yeah, bring the resources to where people are now. That was one of the things, I can't think of his name, who was talking about. It's going to be online too, the conference, some of these workshops. The last one was like kind of the new civil rights, the future of the new civil rights. No, if I had answers to this, I wish I had answers to this, but there ought to be better opportunity. There ought to be, I worked in the Hartford Public Schools. For God's sakes, not only did we not have crayons, we didn't have toilet paper in the schools for the kids, seriously, really. You can't, the system was so broken. It's so broken in so many places. I sometimes because I've been in the house basically for a year, I can remember one of the last schools, because I ended up working in out of district special education placements. And one of the last schools I worked in, there were some teachers there who had no business being anywhere near children. And literally, and then I was their social worker. So some of the kids got referred to me. It's like there were 3 teachers for kindergarten, 1st grade, and 2nd grade that you knew if one of the Puerto Rican kids had those 3 teachers, by the next grade, they were going to be in special education as a behavior problem and emotionally disturbed. They weren't emotionally disturbed. The system was emotionally disturbed. So,
It was one of those ways to push them into a lane
oh yeah,
where they weren't college bound, and
oh
you
yeah.
know,
Yeah, sometimes I look back on those days, Maurice, and I think there was this one 3rd grade teacher. She had 5 Black girls in her class.
Mhm.
By the end of the school year, Maurice, she could not tell their names apart. Can you imagine spending a whole year in a classroom? So to say our system has been inequitable is, I don't know.
I'm gonna go to the other people
Sure.
and give them a chance to ask you a question. Hey, Sean, you got a question you'd like to ask?
I'm actually still processing everything. It was pretty much a lot, but I do like the points that you brought up about progressives. I'm actually going to be moving into an area with Democrat progressives, but some people have good things to say, and a lot of kind of like you guys are saying, confusing things. But I guess not any questions, but just great points. I appreciate the interview.
Thank you. I just, I think it really does come down to values. Elizabeth Warren was my 2nd great political love, and Don Berwick was my 3rd, and she says that a lot. And it's about values, and we were saying earlier, like if you go to the Democratic State Committee in Massachusetts website, and you look at their values and what they say are their values, right? And then if you would want to look at the Republican State Committee and see what their values are, which are very different. And so, it's labels, but you have to look at which are your values and which party is going to be more effective and better at getting the things that you value passed into law. Just like the Voting Rights Act in the federal government now, like what the voter suppression that's going on now. Even in my little town, 3 counselors tried to introduce a voter suppression ordinance in Massachusetts, in this little suburban town. It's like, what is wrong with these people? What are they thinking? How to bring people together is something I think about a lot, but getting back to politics, I think, know what your values are, know what you want to try to accomplish, and try to get elected and be in a position where you can begin to do some of that. So we have a city council form of government with 11 counselors. Some of them have been there 30 years. I can't begin to tell you how awful some of them are. And a good friend of mine was on the council for 2 terms, and she left because she couldn't stand it anymore, because with only a few people out of 11. So you got to get elected. You got to get more people who share values elected, who want to make change. And Maurice and I were talking about this earlier today, that, the trouble with getting into political office is that, how do you know when you've been co-opted? So you want to accomplish something, right? So there's all this quote, give and take, right? And how do you know, how do you check yourself and make sure that you aren't giving up too much of what you really believe to get the things that you want? I mean, huh? Yeah.
I was I wasn't in a political office, but I was supporting Alex Morris.
Right.
and we was in a really heated battle. And so the guy said to me, "Hey, I know that you're looking for an internship for IT. I can help you get in."
Mhm.
And he was adamantly opposed to entrepreneurs. I knew what he was doing.
Yeah.
I was like, no, thank you.
Yeah.
No, thank you. Because I knew what he was doing. He was trying to buy me.
Yeah, absolutely.
So I think people have to make their choices way ahead of time.
Yeah.
But at the same time, we also have to build a movement where people are holding the political candidates accountable
Mhm.
by continually being in their face. You know, we elect these people and then we run back home. We'll be like, oh, it's over. And it's not true. And so that room there's like an item, as they say, item devil's playground. You know what I'm saying? So if we leave the political candidate alone long enough and they're not feeling the pressure, I think it makes it easier for them to sell out. Anita, do you have any questions? Anita, no.
My bad. No, I don't at this time. Although, Corinne, I feel you on the canvassing because I did that for 3 years and it's obnoxious. It is very obnoxious. And I wish there was a better way. And I'm glad to know I'm not the only one that feels the way that you do, that I'm not alone.
Yeah, it's tough. Yeah. But, you know, we need to get more good people elected. That's what we really need to do. But most people, you know, we also need to get people to connect what happens in local, state, and national even elections to what they see in their day-to-day life, because, you know, people have really full, busy lives now, right? And more than ever. And so I think most people, like the voter turnout in my town is something like, it's never been more than 20% in a local election of people who actually even registered to vote. People just don't see it don't see what it means for their lives. They don't, and trying to figure out how to help people to make those connections and understand that, you know, who is going to be working for the greater good for the town, versus some of the people who are on the council now. So it's just, how do you make the unheard voices heard? I think that's one of the things I think is absolutely critical, because, you know, BU did a study of so when you're having an affordable housing development it's a 40B in Massachusetts, and there's a public hearing, right? And so they did a study of who actually comes to these hearings, which inevitably are opposed to the housing, right? So, and what they found was that the people who show up at the hearings are not representative of the town, not at all. But that's the voices that are getting heard. So how do we figure out how to get other voices heard? You know, that's, yeah, anybody who knows, it's not easy. It's not easy, but we have to figure out how to connect it to people's lives, I think.
Yes. So I just want to, I don't know if it's not necessarily a question, but a statement, I guess.
Yeah.
I don't know what your area looks like as far as access to getting back and forth to places as far as transportation is concerned. And I believe that is something that is a big issue when it comes to these things, that you don't have the access to get to the people because they're not moving. They're going to stay at City Hall, or they're going to stay where they are. And they expect for you to do whatever is necessary for you to get to them.
Absolutely.
And a lot of times, you know, that's something that no one ever thinks about, is the actual transportation issue, especially in rural areas. Like, I'm from the city, So for me, if I can't get there, I can grab a bus. Like
Yeah, yeah,
I can grab a taxi, I can grab an Uber or Lyft. Like that's not that difficult. Or I can, call somebody and say, hey, can I get a ride from this street to this street real quick? And in rural areas, I know that is something that is a huge issue. And also just having access to your council people, the people who are actually, the base people on the ground. Because for me in Cleveland, our council person, his office was at the end of our street. So it was very easy to like just
yeah,
walk to the end of the street for council meetings because it's like, okay, it's right here on 105.
yeah.
Cool. Get there, you got it. So it's not necessarily a question, but like it's how how would you handle that being in a rural area and having the access to actually get those voices heard? Because it's just as easy to sit at home and not be heard and watch Dance with the Stars or American Idol or
Yeah,
some random show.
yeah. Yeah, I totally agree with you. We need to figure out how to how to get to where people are and try to bring their voices in. Yeah, and some people, I think I do believe in term limits. A close friend of mine who passed away in his 90s, he was all for term limits. I mean, some of these guys, and they are white men, mostly on the council, they've been in office, I'm telling you, 30 more years, and they have not had a new idea, but they keep getting elected, and boy, it's just, and it's frustrating. I'm crying on your shoulders with all my frustrations, and I don't mean to be, because there is hope, and you can work and you can get people elected, and you can chip away at the system to try to make change. And, Dr. Tiffany Manuel she's the consultant. She has this organization, the Case Made. She's just an amazing woman. She's a consultant to this housing group, and what was it? She calls this an inflection point right now. That the point we're at now is so critical for us to try to figure out what to do to make big change, not just the tipping away kind of thing we've been some trying to do, but that this is really, really a turning point in this for our country, and that we need to make voices heard, and we need to get messages out, and we need to really make big change. So I don't do other people think that's true, or Maurice, where'd you go?
I agree with you.
I'm right
I
here.
agree with you.
I completely agree.
I agree with you, especially at the local level. That's one thing a lot of my old political friends used to say the same thing too. You can't just start change with just a message. You got to start at the local level, and then work your way up and stuff like that, and have a lot of the same like-minded, minds together to, then eventually the elite or the ones that's in power will, die or go off or leave or resign, stuff like that. But I totally agree with you.
I think that poverty is I think poverty is managed, and I think that one of the things that we don't do and what we need to do, it's like I said to people, every so often I'll put up this question: how many Black folks are still going to Home Depot and supporting Disney, despite the fact that Disney supported Trump and the NFL gave $10 million to American First, which is an organization that supported Trump and candidates that support Trump's ideals, right? And it's unfortunate. Like, one of the things I keep hearing is like, man, like I'll go to Home Depot because it's cheaper. You know what I'm saying? And the reality is, like, Home Depot is, I mean, even though it's cheap, there's still places out there. There's Harbor Freight. right?
Yeah.
Or there's Lowe's, you know?
Yeah.
Lowe's have paid their employees more.
Mm-hmm.
You know what I mean? There's community hardware stores, right? We need to figure out a way to get people to work together to pool our monies, right? Because what people don't realize is that, like, even though we individually go into the store and we'll buy a product, we are still pulling our money together to fund some billionaire, right? Who's going to take that money and support candidates that will pass a bill that's against our interests. And so I think we need to work on those things and working on getting, one of the things I heard, one of the most important crucial lessons I heard was from Willie Bathers of the Poor People Economic Human Rights Campaign. He told me this story. He said, man, I went down to we went down to the shelter, right? We organized people, man, and we was like telling people like all the things that's gonna change if they work with us, so on and so forth, and this and that. So then we like went out, we went out to protest and this and that, and we turned around, they weren't with us. And when I went back to them and talked to them and asked them why, William said, Willie said, they answered, it's like, well, you never asked us what we needed. And so when they asked me, it's like, so what do you need? And they started telling them like, well, the people that work here take the toilet paper and sell it and take the money for themselves. And and so what happened was after Baptists and them heard the people's concern at the shelter, they organized an action to change the shelter, and it worked, right? And after they were able to address the immediate needs of the people in the shelter, then they were able to join the larger movement, right? And so it's well worth addressing the immediate needs of that community. And then once you address the immediate needs of that community, they will join your movement.
Very true. Very profound. Absolutely. Yeah, that's right.
And then, do you have any questions? I can see your ceiling.
I'm sorry. I have my phone on mute so you don't hear too much noise.
Can we see your face?
Are you?
Yes. See it?
I don't have any question.
Okay. Jerry, you have any questions?
I'm listening.
What did you say, Nano?
Just enjoying to listen.
Okay. Jerry, you got any questions? I know Jerry got a question.
Yeah, I wanted to, just to make a comment. So you had said earlier in the interview that in terms of Deval Patrick, that he was like naive in a sense. And when you said that, it kind of, two things come to my mind, right? One, the fact that he's not of the culture like in Eastern Mass, I mean, basically he's from, I forget what town it is, but I believe he's from the Berkshires. I don't know if that's just a summer home or if that's his permanent residence. But so when you mentioned that he was kind of naive going into, the governorship, so it made me think that, first of all, Massachusetts is like the oldest political system in the country. And in the greater Boston area, or Eastern Mass, I should say, there's a whole culture there that, if once you get 100 miles out, particularly heading west, you're not a party to that. You don't really understand you know, all the workings of that. And that puts you at a disadvantage. And so I'm sure that Patrick ran into kind of like a wall, maybe more than one wall, in terms of trying to break through and, you know, understand where the power dynamics were and all of that stuff. But the other thing that you said, there's another thing that you said that really, really made me think. You were talking about the 4%. I forget what the term was, but basically you're saying it was a proposal to tax the second million at 4%. And
No.
was that a statewide thing?
Yeah. Do you live in Massachusetts or no?
Yeah, I do.
Okay, great. So it's an additional 4%. So our income tax now, I think, is 5%. 5%. That's what we all pay. It's like a flat tax, right? Everybody pays 5%, which, you know, when you're paying 5% of $1 million versus if your income is like, you know, 18,000, you're getting hit a lot harder. So the system is upside down. The people who make the least essentially are paying the most of your income. So it's called the Fair Share Amendment. It's an amendment to the Constitution, and it was approved in the legislature one time. Signatures were collected. It was approved in the legislature. It has to be approved again, and then it goes on the ballot in 2022. And so, if it's passed, when it's passed, people whose Massachusetts income above $1 million, all their income above $1 million, will be taxed at 9% instead of 5%. It's an additional 4% on Massachusetts income over $1 million. And all the money will go to transportation and education. It's called, if you Google Raise Up Massachusetts, you'll find all the information about it. And again, you know, we've lost $4 billion annually in revenue in Massachusetts. You know, how do you fully fund your schools? They passed legislation to put more funding into the schools and never funded it. Never said, yeah, we're going to give more money, especially to the most disadvantaged schools. And then, oops, we never gave you the money, you know. So this raises the money to actually put the money into education and transportation, public transportation. So, so you can have smaller classes, so you can have early childhood education, so you can have higher education, so you can bring the resources that kids need to schools. You know, when I worked in Hartford, kids entering kindergarten, their language skills, I was like, we're a 4-year-old. They were like 5, and they were behind before they walked in the door. And then we did nothing to start where they were and build them up. We just said, this is what you're supposed to be able to do. Go do it. And of course, a lot of kids couldn't do it. So if you want schools to work for kids, you've got to be able to figure out what they need and give them whatever it is that they need to succeed, because the kids can succeed. It never has been the kids. So, and that takes money. And so that's what this Fair Share Amendment is all about. It's about raising revenue in Massachusetts, directing the revenue to education and transportation, and to raise the revenue not by taxing people with the lower incomes, but people who actually have Massachusetts income over $1 million, over $1 million. Your first million, you're still only paying 5% like everybody else at that good old flat tax.
I agree with that.
Once you get over the $1 million, then you pay 9%. And the actual amount of the money on your second $1 million would come to $40,000 a year.
I would agree with that.
Yes.
Yeah,
when you
we
said
should do
that,
that. Yeah. I'm sorry.
yeah.
Say
So when
that.
you said that,
Yeah.
you also, yeah, you also mentioned that that it hit like a wall because people were fighting that tooth and nail. The people who would be affected by that.
Yeah.
And so what that made me realize, right, is that okay, so 4%. Yes, I mean $40,000 is that's a good chunk of change. But looking at a percentage, looking at it as a percentage. So people who have basically the means of basically kind of saying, hey, whoa, this isn't fair. We're not going with this. This is 4%. In the communities, in the poorer communities, we get hit with taxes that are far beyond 40%. You know what I mean? We get hit with
4%.
fees. So you go to a store, right, a corner store, and there's an item that costs like $1. You know, you go there maybe a couple of weeks later or a month later, and it's like, oh yeah, so it's like $1.09 now, you know, or $1.10. And basically people just cough up the money. They're not thinking, well, wait a minute, hold it. This is like a 9% bump up. You know what I mean? And so I think that as people of limited means, that we have to understand the power of how we spend our money. You know, and have to understand why people would fight something that's like only a 4%, when we're dealing with things that hit us at a far higher rate.
Right.
But anyway, other than that, I'm just listening, and I'm just taking in some of your perspectives, and I appreciate you taking the time to come and speak with us today.
Yeah, I really would encourage you to go to, just Google Raise Up Massachusetts, and it will explain it probably better than I am, because it's an additional 4%. And yeah, I mean, it's just greed. To me, you've got $2 million. You've got $2 million in income, and now you're being asked to pay 40,000 of that, right? 40,000 of that. $2 million. Now it's really only the second million that's getting taxed, but you've got that much income, and you're right. And the person in the store is like getting hit for a whole lot more, because the system is just upside down. And we're rolling out a campaign to pass the Fair Share Amendment. It will be on the ballot in 2022, and we are going to pass the Fair Share Amendment. We are going to get this money. Yeah, I'm sorry.
Well, also look at this, right? This is one of the reasons why I support it, right? Look at how much subsidies these big corporations get.
Terrible. It's terrible.
Right? They get tons of subsidy. Look at when the first COVID payments came out, right? It wasn't the small businesses that got that money. It was the huge businesses, right? And the government helped them. I can't remember the term of it, but the government helped them make sure that they got those funds. You know what I'm saying? So, not only that, is like these corporations and the CEOs and CFOs of these corporations benefit from systematic racism, right? So it's like, you know what? Listen, it's done. And it's not even systematic racism, right? There's so many poor white people, right? There's families in this country white families in this country for like 6 generations or whatever, that have not made over $100,000 a year, so I think that I agree with that,
Yeah.
So let's go to this. Let's switch gears real quick. I want you to pick a topic. I want you to speak on that topic for 5 minutes, and then we're going to write some poetry about that topic. And then we're going to read it.
You want me to pick a topic?
Yep, Corinne, you pick the topic.
Oh my gosh.
You talk about it for 5 minutes. We're going to listen.
Okay.
We're going to listen to some music, and then we're going to write some poetry, and then we're going to come back and
Okay, let me just think a sec. I was remembering one time we were in a meeting with you, and I forgot. I think you had a topic, and you told everybody to write down one word, and you took all the pieces of paper and you turned it into a whole thing. Do you remember that?
Yeah.
Yeah, I was like, whoa, look at this. A topic, I suppose I should pick politics. Let me think. Although I've been talking about that. Honestly, how about a better world? Let me think about this. How can we make a better world? How do we change? How do we change minds and hearts? How do we take people in my town? Sometimes I grew up in this town. I moved away. I came back to this town. This town is 95 point something% white. It's a Trump town. There are a lot of white supremacists. There are other people who just never thought about things. So there are people, if you look on our town forums, right, how people who don't believe there's any such thing as systemic racism. I mean, I once had this heated argument a couple of years ago with this guy who told me there was no such thing as driving while black. It was simply a statistical probability that people got stopped more. I mean, so how do you I guess, how do you take white people and get them to understand and understand that there is systemic racism and the way it's impacted the lives of people of color, and to feel some ownership for making change for that?
Honestly, I think. Oh, I'm sorry.
Yeah, is that 5 minutes? No.
No, go ahead.
Because living here, I think about that a lot. I try to figure out how to do that a lot. And so any poem or help anyone can give me is how do we make change? How do we make a more just world? How do we change people's perceptions and broaden their understanding, and help them to be, I was going to say better people. I'm not sure that's exactly, to just to be more fair, to be more just, to make the changes that we need. Is that fine? Do you, I'm kind of ambling.
That's good.
Huh?
That's good. Manon, Anita, Jerry.
No, that's not. That's a good
What are
topic.
you asking exactly? Are you asking me to reply to Corinne or
Yeah.
write a
No,
poem?
I was getting everybody's attention. You guys clear on the topic?
Yes, we were listening.
Y'all ready? Y'all ready to write?
Writing.
Great.
All right.
Please be patient with me. My wrist is broken. I can only do things so fast.
What?
Mm.
What'd you say? Hello?
She said, be patient with her. She
Oh.
can't write.
Shamako Noble broke.
Oh my gosh, her wrist is broken.
Can y'all hear the music?
Down here and make moves. We got these bully rated makeshift lawmakers fucking up. Bakers to protect us, but the haters still coming up. People losing their homes with no one to blame except an imaginary market that gets harder to tame. God, it's a shame. These credit companies harder to pay. Little too clever, they just chalk it up as part of the game. Stalking your rates, card you again. Make deal, don't even know who you bargaining with. They try to act like it's not get to their order. But thousands in the court still don't have anyone. Going after your son or your daughter that's trying to look for your own slaughter. Another public housing unit torn up. Police don't even bother with conversations or whatnot. They just speak with a taser or object with a gunshot. Let the bullets fall. The court of law is crystal clear. Convicted for surviving the trap they have engineered. Yo, they got cops as well. And yo, cats, bro, we need to tell them right now. And yo, cats, bro, they need to know right now. Yo, cats, bro, if you feel it in your body, yes, cats, bro, if you feel it in your brain, yo, cats, bro, if you feel it in your car, cats, bro, if you feeling it, if you feeling it. Yeah, folks is starving, the White House is starting to look like J.P. Morgan. Obama is born dead by a limited margin because of his charm and all of the harm the Bush storm did. But I'ma keep it real, yeah, even though we won, we still got an economic system that is overrun. And we don't understand it, and we are all lost. These corporations, they only want to cut the costs. They create jobs, their prices don't level off. Playing ball for spaces, people have less to talk. We've always loved America because we've been better off. But never won't goodbye to prison job and we done shipped it off. They get our head of breaks, brave mistake for corporate companies. We have to choose, but to work together. Heart exploding and ticking up in the keys. We see the bottom falling, cooped up in a pseudo free market, just exploding, floating. Yeah, yo, Cass is broke. Come on, sing it out loud. Like Cass is broke. Sing it right now. Yeah, Cass is broke. Cass is broke. Right now. Yeah, Cass is broke. Yeah, Cass is broke. Tell the story. Yeah, Cass is broke. Tell the story. And yo, Cass is pissed. Critical mass, what'll happen to us after this? It's a conspiracy, the theory we can master. We get back our past, but get the mad, we can smash the shit. For many, this is God, but some catches it. And they'll be glad with fashions and purchase activists. One Tyler sleeping got bitches, 100s addicted to pills. Or sitting on TV just promoting the gender show. We could affect it all, but collective thought. But there are sections lost, and there are sections lost. And there are sections that they never want to understand. And there were sections that will pay the upper hand working the numbers, man. There were lines drawn and more trying to ride the fence. Signify your mind, then focus, use your mind to fix. It won't take one of us, it won't take 25, it won't take all of us for all of us to survive. And yo, Cass is broke. Yeah, Cass is broke. Yeah, Cass is broke. Yeah, Cass is broke. Yeah, yeah. Cass is broke. Yeah, Cass is broke. Just tell them right now. Yeah, Cass is broke. Hey, yo, tell them right now. Yeah, Cass is broke. Rock that, boy. West Coast.
Yo, this next one is by T. Swan. It's called Motivation. Are y'all ready? Nanone, Nita, Jerry?
Give me a couple seconds. Again, my wrist is broken. I only got one typing hand.
Oh, yeah, that's right. Nanone, how you doing?
I'm good.
Jerry? Is everybody ready? Now I know y'all can hear me, Nita, Nanon, Jerry.
You want me to read mine and get it over with?
Hold
Ready.
on.
I'm ready, since you're harassing me. Lucky I love you.
I love you too, Nita. Jerry. Grandpapa. Oh, his new phone ain't working no more. You know what he's doing? He's stalling for more time. That's what he's doing. See, Jerry has learned to circumvent the time on his program. He knows that as soon as he responds, he's gonna have to be ready. So if he don't respond, I'm gonna just keep doing this. But not tonight, Jerry. Not tonight. I'm gonna give you 5 seconds to respond, Jerry. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Oh, see,
I
Jerry,
need like
Jerry,
2
Jerry.
more seconds.
See
I need
what
2
I
more
tell you?
seconds, man.
You ready, Jerry?
Yeah, I'm ready, but I don't have a poem. I mean, I've been writing on the topic, but it's not really a poem. It's just kind of collected thoughts, like a free write
Yeah, I mean
that may at
that.
some point. Say what?
No, I hear you.
Okay, so I'm up.
Yep, go ahead.
Okay, yeah. So this is what I got. This is what I got, and again, it's pretty raw. Don't know why they can't see. Can't understand how they can be so blind. What goes unspoken, unknown. It's a home on the range kind of thing. That old cowboy song, home on the range, whenever it's heard a discouraging word. Yeah, well, 2 negatives equal a positive. And so whenever it's heard a discouraging word is the core of the problem. I think that what we call systemic racism, as it applies to people of color in this country, is the same system that the waves of immigrants from Europe were escaping under the tyranny of, at first, the royal system, and then the feudal system. So yeah, they were basically bowed under the weight of a set of rules and laws that made it virtually impossible for them to thrive. And so I think that the conversations I've had with a lot of people, with a lot of white folks, is that they don't talk about, the elders don't talk about what happened in the old country. They don't talk about the circumstances that actually drove them here. They'll talk about, oh, they came for better opportunities, and they're put it in those terms. But essentially, they were victims of a systemic exploitation that we are under now. So they don't understand that because they're not aware of their history. And so that's what I've got. It rambles, but that's really that's what I'm working with.
All right, thank you, bro. I appreciate that. Nita, what you got? What you got, Nita? Bring it.
For me?
Yes, Nita. Bring it.
You saying Nita or no?
Nita.
Okay, because she said she was ready like 10 minutes ago.
Oh, she about to get hers done in a minute. Let's go,
Yes,
Nina.
I order. Okay, so Corinne, from what you said, the prompt that I chose from what you spoke was how do we make change, broaden their minds, and to make changes we need. I wrote a poem. So yeah, it's untitled as of right now. Okay, here we go. Corporate structures, phallics to fill prophylactics, hiding, masking statues, they turn into statutes, they turn into statues, monuments, mental, registering residentials, avoiding arguments, shorten access to free pavements. Joining us is always an option. Their minds never open, constant acceptance of applications. But how? They have closed eyes. They never hear. Fallacy Incorporated. Remove truth shields. Rose Auburn salmon. Jaded shaded. Unlike SPF 30, truth doesn't work in a hurry. Take a moment, sit with us now. Unincorporated, unindoctrinated. Somber sounds, the people. One by one, experiences, abused, indentured, enslaved. Listen to the labor. New life will form. Zygote to fetus. A solution produced to feed us, the whole. Finally, having a piece of the pie. That's what I got.
That's what's up. That's what's up, Nita.
You
Good
welcome.
job. Thank you. Nanon, how you doing? What's up? I know you ready. You ready, Nanon? Let's get it.
Well, you know, I'm not too good at this thing, so.
Yeah.
All right. Look in the mirror. See what you see. It starts from within. We are living the lies from within. Look inside you. Stop pointing the fingers. It's a president. It's our leaders. It's him, it's her, it's the justice system. Really, we all have our part to play. Look in the mirror and be the change. Be the light in the dark. One by one, we can make the difference. One house at a time, one community at a time, one town at a time, one state, one nation, one country at a time.
Yo, the last time she said that, I'm not good at this. Yo, she wrote this poem, knocked it out the park. See, Nina? Nanon, good job. Thank you so much.
You?
I wrote this called A Better World. We don't have to love each other, but recognize our commonalities. Need for education, housing, and food. Others' needs that include political representation. Poverty's got us pacing in circles, losing hope while we make the oppressor rich. We got wounds that need more than a stitch. Soul searching. We need to switch sides and protect us. Build local infrastructure for allied communities, local healthcare centers, and community gardens. For political criminals, no pardons. Tutors for children to teach the brain to grow. Take on challenges within the meetings, but we got women that master hidden figures, taking action that triggers white supremacy. Sometimes division is necessary, like poison berries, protecting territories. We can't afford to lose more. That's it.
Nice. I like how we did. Corinne, how do you feel we did? Did you write something?
No, I don't write. I wouldn't. I don't know. I've never tried to write a poem, but I thought you all did great. Can you type them up and send them, or it'll be on YouTube. I can listen again. No, I thought it was great. Really, it's good food for thought. Yeah.
Yeah, so this will be up on YouTube. You can always access it by going to poeticrecovery.net
Uh-huh.
and click on Poetic Recovery Open Mic. And so
Okay.
you remember the date, April
Uh,
23rd.
yeah.
So it'll be up there.
Great. Thank you. Yeah. I mean, thank you for inviting me. I just I'm sorry I was sort of rambling all over the place. I guess I do that.
No, see, this is a relaxed thing, right? We got some good information, right? It's not going to be the last time, right?
Right.
But you know, how do you feel, Onita? Did you feel like you got some good information?
Definitely. Yeah, for sure. It's not, I'm not there. So I think that as far as connecting nationally, this is something that I appreciated. So
Yeah, some of
even
them,
Massachusetts.
a lot of the information that she gave, you know, can be applicable locally, nationally.
Right. Well, that's the thing. Like I don't live in the Massachusetts and I'm new to Austin.
Right.
So, you know, getting active here in my new community. Like I'm from Cleveland, so my access is there. Everybody I know is there. So I'm still gaining access here in Austin. I'm still learning about Austin. So learning and, kind of a reminder, I guess, of how to get out and see people. Even in the pandemic.
Mhm.
And no, how do you feel? How do you feel about tonight?
Pretty good. That was a pretty good interview with some good insights.
Okay, thank you, Jerry.
Yeah, it was like very well spent. Very insightful, and yeah, I took away some stuff, and just the conversation in general that was generated. Yeah, and so I just want to thank you both for making this a reality.
Well, thank you for helping make it a reality.
Mhm.
Even though you tried to come at me again.
You know, we got to get into the ring, man. We got to do like 3 rounds in the ring, man.
Well, listen, I am not going to get in the ring with you right now because my hand is swollen. I have to box you with
Well,
one.
that's all.
Listen,
Well, that's all the more advantage. I'll take every advantage I can get.
I have to box you with one hand, and I really don't want to do that because when I knock you out with one hand, it's going to make you look worse. So I'd at least want to wait till I get 2 hands, so when I knock you out, at least make it look like I had to, use all I got. So
I'll just stay on your bad side, man,
It's funny.
Yo,
I'll
call Anita up from Austin, yo.
I'm retired.
Yeah, so basically, as we get older, we have to use leverage more. We have to find advantages and make them work for us. But anyway, I just had a question. So you're from Austin. Isn't that the most progressive place?
Cleveland, Ohio.
I mean, you're not.
I live in Austin.
You're not from Austin, but you're living in Austin. Isn't that one of the most progressive places in Texas?
In Texas?
That's the university.
What'd you
I'm
say?
sorry, what did you say?
I said that's what the map says. So the University of Texas is in downtown Austin, and Austin is also the capital of Texas. But if you look at the political maps that they draw up for us so kindly with their red and blue, they're so nice to colorize it for us, right? there are very few blue places in Texas. So there's Dallas, Austin, Houston, the main places, and Corpus Christi, weirdly enough. And if you don't know, Corpus Christi is the home of Selena. But anyways,
Ooh.
yeah. So yeah, no, I'm not from
That wait, what'd you say is the home of Selena?
Corpus Christi.
Oh.
But like that
so
area for some reason is like very popular. Well, it's that area of Texas has the beach. So it's actually a beach you can actually swim on, like, because we're on the Gulf. So I haven't been down there yet, but from what I've been told, it's not very swimmer friendly because it's so gross. So that's one of the swimmable areas of the Texas coastline.
So I'm just curious, is that a good place? It's for like live music? 'Cause I know they do like the Austin City Live thing. I catch that on PBS sometimes. But is there a lot of good live music outside of that venue?
There is a lot of live music here. Lots of bands and guitars and that kind of stuff. Like, yes, I'll say yes. Depends on what kind of music you like, but overall, if you're just a fan of music, no matter what it is, then yeah. Like there's a bar that plays music every night. Like before COVID, there were bars that literally played music all night long. Like they just had live bands going all night long. So yeah, it's definitely a place for that. Like, yeah, it's not but the thing that people don't know about Austin is that it is becoming a mini Silicon Valley. So it's very, 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 did I say very? Very expensive place. So yeah, like there, when the little statistics come out to say, oh, these are the most expensive places to live, they're not lying.
Wow.
Like Austin is a very expensive place to live, like food. The only thing I'll say that is a little bit more affordable is just gas, but that's also access to oil because I'm in Texas, so that's where most of the oil is coming from. Because like I'll talk to my mom, and if I'm getting gas, I'll be like, "Oh, gas is like $2.15," and she'll be like, "Oh, gas is $3.49 here." I'm like, "What? Like how? What is happening?" So yeah, that's something. So like here, every headquarters you can think of is here in Austin. So Google, Apple, Oracle, Roku, Yahoo, you name it, they have a building here in Austin. Like, it's becoming quickly a tech capital. And most of the transplants are from California. So they're driving prices up because California is so expensive. Like for me, I come from Cleveland. Cleveland's one of the poorest cities in the country. I think it was rated the poorest city in the country last year. So, like when I got here, I'm like, oh my god.
Cleveland is poorer than Cincinnati?
Yeah.
Wow.
You ain't know that?
Oh.
Yeah. Oh man, Cincinnati. Yeah. No, Cincinnati is over the Rhine is what makes Cincinnati have money. Like Cincinnati as a whole. Like, yeah, no, Cincinnati ain't that poor.
When y'all come next Friday,
Detroit poor.
When y'all come next Friday, come ready to read, yo. Yo, I'm playing these two songs, Humpty Dance, in honor of Shock G, who just passed, and like Whoa, in honor of Black Rob, who just passed. Rest in peace.
Yeah, I was actually reading about that. A brother from Digital Underground.
He was the founder.
Yo, Tupac used to be their dancer.
Yep.
Yeah, well, they found Tupac, right?
Yeah, they discovered Tupac. Tupac toured with them for 5 years, and he was actually only with Death Row for 9 months. So yeah, Tupac, when they have like this whole Suge Knight and Tupac thing, is because Tupac wanted to end his contract early with Death Row because of the requirements that Suge Knight was putting on them, and then also Suge Knight's affiliations to gang relations and other,
Hey, yo, Nina.
things.
Nina,
Yo,
are you dancing?
no, that's spraying naked.
What?
I moved my one arm.
No, you dancing? Let's go, Jerry.
Say if I'm dancing?
I
You don't
can't
hear me,
dance,
you.
man. I got my second shot yesterday, man. I'm all sore and stuff.
Oh, well, yeah.
Now I'm Doc Strange and like 100 miles an hour, switch the things like whoa. Plus I'm getting brain punch shit like whoa. Bending it, assholes like 20 miles an hour, switch the things like whoa. 20 miles an hour, switch the things like whoa. 20 miles an hour, switch the things like whoa. Things like whoa. Plus I'm getting things like whoa. Things like whoa. Alright, stop what you're doing, cause I'm about to ruin the styles that you used to. I look funny, but yo, I'm making money, see? So yo, I hope you're ready for me. I got a rhyme. I'm a little fool in town, and my sounds ain't down by the underground. I'm drinking about my Hennessy, you kind of show. So just let me introduce myself. My name is Pumpty. Pronounce it Pumpty. Yo, niggas, all how I like to funky. And I'm around to the top 10. Please allow me to pump me. I'm stepping hard, y'all. And just like I'm the empty, you're gonna fall when the stereos pump me. I like to laugh. I like to be funky. I'm spooky. I like my homie, I'm rocky. I'm straight with this. Straight dance the man. But sometimes I get ridiculous. All the crackers in there looking rich. How y'all fat girl? Come here, I did some good shit. I y'all get fat. Look at me, I'm skinny. And never stop me from getting busy. I like the girls with the balls. I once got busy in the bathroom, I'm crazy. Allow me to amaze me. Say I'm up on the chest, don't faze me. I'm still getting in the and I even got my own dance. Just watch me. It's really funny record. That's all because I get things cooking. Instead, you constantly try to compare me, but you can't get near me. I'll give the floor, see it on the floor of me. All the things they ignore me. Oh yes, ladies, I'm really being sincere. I'm a hunting nose will tickle you. I know some shit. I'm not ashamed. Big like a pickle. I'm still getting paid. A lot of ladies, you know I'm in charge. But when I'm living in my nose is large, I get stupid. I shoot it down like Cupid. I used to work at the tight like Luke did. I sang on the next line. And look at this shit. I'm the one that said this girl with the biscuits. Also thinking that I like to bite. Well, yeah, I get some pockets. I also like to bite. Oh, yeah, the kids give Humpty a chance. So now I'm gonna do my dance. Humpty dance. Take some chance. Come on. Yes, everybody dance. Come on. I'll do the Humpty dance. Everybody dance. Come on, do the Humpty dance. I'll tell you how to get out of the way. Watch me do the Humpty dance. Yeah, that's pretty great, y'all. Look at that bass group right here. Yeah. Like I told y'all, we talking about myself. Oh, like this at the band more so like it's so I let the past life come through the pussy so like oh, my nigga, like flow, like flow, nitro, like flow, nitro. She's but things like oh, now I'm Doc Strange and strange like oh, 100,000 hours on the stage like oh. Let me tell you what's like this bad. It's real easy to do. Check it out. Put something to the sound like my label's breaking. Shaking it, twitch your guy like I'm smacking. Cooking like funky. People say you look like MC Hammer on track, hunty. That's alright, because my body's in motion. It's supposed to look like a flitter of correction. Anyone can play this game. This was my dance, shout out to people my name. No two people will do it the same, they got it down. When you were feeling in pain, pumping, fucking, jumping, getting around, shaking your rock, going into jump, track, point the finger like the slap, tell them step off. I'm doing my hump. The hump, do you take it? Jump fast, sit around.
All right, y'all. I want to thank y'all very much for coming through. It's your boy Marie Soul Fighter Taylor, Poetic Recovery, Hip Hop Congress, Northeast Region. Want to thank Corinne for coming out, talking to us about the process of getting people to elected to political positions, running campaigns, and the blade work, such as door knocking and such things like that. I want to thank you for sharing your knowledge with us. I really, really appreciate it. And I look forward to working with you again in the future.
Thank you so much for inviting me. You're amazing. You've always been amazing. So it's great.
Thank you. I appreciate it. I'll let you know when it's ready to go.
Okay.
It'll be up on YouTube, but I'm going to edit it.
Okay, that's great. Yeah, let me know. That's good. Okay, thanks. Bye-bye.
Good
Bye, everybody.
night. Thank you.
Night. We'll
Thank
see
you, Nanon. I appreciate you for coming.
Peace.
Thank you for having me.
You're welcome. Thank you.
Yeah, good.
I was going to say about Anita, but she didn't wait. All right, y'all.
Well, okay, bye-bye. We'll
Bye-bye. Have a good night.
see you soon. Okay.
You
What
too.
did I do? This one.
You should see the red X. I want to thank everybody for tuning in to www.poeticrecovery.net, or whether or not you checking us out on Facebook, on YouTube, or on a radio station. I want to thank you all very much for tuning in. Another segment of Poetic Recovery, where just everyday people, man, who love hip hop, who love culture, who are in tune with what's going on in our community and the world around us, addressing things that are going with ourselves. I want to thank you for being part of this experience. And if you want to join us, go to poeticrecovery.net, click on sign up, and you'll get the login information. Hope you guys take it easy, keep your head up, and be well. Peace.